PR Connections Radio presents.
Good afternoon and welcome back to Cozy Up and Pay Attention, the Parent Edition, Season 2. I am very proud of that. And if you are looking at my face, it is Tuesday. It is 2 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. And I am going to present you with another outstanding parent who is doing his job. If you would kindly take a deep breath, inhale, and let it out. I'll be right back.
Cozy Stone is a multi-talented comedian extraordinaire who has a real lust for life. She also combines humor and motivation, where she is known as a humorvational speaker. Her youthful ways and positive light make her a beacon for those of all ages. Cozy has lived a remarkable life that has paved the way for so many. She had the longest running open mic venue of 11 years at Tommy Rockers in Vegas, called Cozy's Comedy Corner, through which she introduced many up-and-coming comedians. Before going into comedy, she was one of the first female personal trainers and one of the top fitness trainers in the world. She has trained many greats such as Billie Jean King, Roberta Flack, Andrew Young, Ed Bradley, CCH Pounder, Al Pacino, and Earl Monroe. As a former competitive bodybuilder, she also owned a bodybuilding gym for women over 40 in Los Angeles for several years. She has worked in top positions for HBO, Playboy, and Tony Robbins. She also enjoys volunteer work, dedicating time to the New York Foundling Hospital and babies with AIDS. Cozy Stone has a message that shouldn't be missed.
Okay, I would imagine you've let that breath out. Please bring me my wonderful guest of the day, Mr. Guy Dawson. Good afternoon, handsome man.
Hello, Cozy. I am so thrilled to finally get a chance to appear on your wonderful show.
On our wonderful show. That's what makes it even more special. Before we get started, Guy, I think it bears repeating every week that the perfect parent does not exist, and there is actually not a manual on best practices for each and every child and what you should teach them. Also, I'd like to say that we do not do parent shaming on the show. We try to share, applaud, and celebrate you parents who have done, and we don't try, we do a damn good job. And we celebrate, applaud those of you who have taken your job seriously as a parent. So I'd like to give a little bit of background on where you came from and your parents. So tell us, where did your parents meet and how old were they when they brought you into the world?
My parents met at a party. This was back in the early 60s, right? Yes. And just one of those neighborhood house parties. And my mother has shared about my father walking in the room, and he was a real kind of a flamboyant kind of ladies' man type guy. And that was something that really attracted her to him. As a matter of fact, I think he might have been there like with a couple of other women, right? But she was determined that he was going to be hers. And
go.
Yeah, they were, just young, but he really, I think when he met my mother, there was something about her. They definitely had a connection that both of them talked about right off the bat. So she moved the other women to the side, and she pulled my father, and the rest is history. Yeah, we're from Los Angeles, and so house parties in LA, right? I know you've lived out there, so you understand the environment. Yeah.
And how old were they?
So when my parents met, my father was about 22, I guess, and my mother was 20.
Okay. Are you, do you have other siblings? Are you the oldest sibling?
I'm the oldest sibling, and I have a brother who's 6.5 years younger than me.
All right. So how old were your parents when they gave birth to you?
So I guess my father was 26 and my mother was 24.
Okay. And the reason I asked that question is it does seem to follow in suit with young people who have young children and 20-year-olds and 30-year-olds. And I just want the audience to hear the dynamics. And there is a difference in the dynamics Now, how old were you when you met were you married to your son's mom?
We were not married,
Okay.
and I was 28 years old when I met my son's mother.
Okay. And how old was she?
She was 20.
You dirty old man.
I guess if you're 28 years old and you're an old man, I guess I'd have to admit to being a dirty old man.
Okay. So, so you just gave me the dynamics. I said that out loud. Sometimes I try not to, but it's all right. People understand. So you gave me the dynamics of your parents meeting and your hot mom deciding what she wanted. When you met your son's mom, was it her brains, her beauty, or her brawn, her brains, her beauty, or her body that you were most attracted to?
I mean, I think it was, she was a very young, pretty woman. So I think that obviously was the first attraction that I had with her. But then as we started to date and I spent time with her, she was very sharp. And I always admired her. I mean, I thought she was, quite a few years younger than me, but I could just see, I said, boy, this woman, she's very young, but she's got a lot of potential because she was a very sharp young woman. And that really impressed me. So yes, I mean, she was a very good looking woman, but that only lasts for so long, right? The attraction only. So yeah, I would say that after I was with her for a while, I really recognized that she was a very smart person, very, very sharp for her age. And that impressed me a lot.
All right. So you're attracted to her. She's got a good brain. You're now dating. How long were you dating before she became with child?
Oh, wow, it wasn't long. It was a few months, I think, actually, that we dated. Maybe, not very many months. Well, we had been sort of seeing each other on and off late in 1998, but it was sort of we lived in the same apartment complex, and she lived with a group of people, and I would drop in and I would visit her. So I wouldn't say we were actually really quote dating at that point. We just were sort of connecting, but we later in 1998 was when we started to actually date. And then by 1999, I would say we were in full-fledged dating mode. And I guess she was probably pregnant by February or March of 1999. So it wasn't very long that she became pregnant.
So suffice it to say, it was an unplanned pregnancy. So what? All right. Moving forward, even as I have more females on, so I get to ask you as a male. Even when you heard the news, when she told you she was pregnant, I'm trying to stay serious. You always make me laugh, talk on it. This is a very serious show.
All right, I'll get in serious mode for sure.
Please. Hey. And then I get started and I can't stop laughing. Okay. So once you found out you were going to be a dad, did you have fear or fantasy about fatherhood?
It was really interesting because I took her to be tested for pregnancy, and she walked out of the room and she looked at me with a big smile on her face, and she put her hand on her belly. And I was like, oh, wow. I mean, I didn't think it would really, there was a reason why we were there, right? But I did not really it didn't really connect that she might actually be pregnant. And I don't know why that wouldn't connect, because we were doing the things that would cause her to be pregnant. But anyway, when she did that, had her hands on her belly and she was smiling, and it was like, I was really ready to be a dad.
Okay.
So I would say that, yeah, that for me, that was like, oh, wow. Life took on a new meaning really from that very moment. That was a huge moment in my life, actually, because once I knew there was another one that he was coming, or that there was going to be a baby coming, I really started to step my game up from that very moment, actually.
And so this question is going to go before another. With that said, what are 2 or 3 things that went through your head, or not right there in the doctor's office, but as you now knew you're going to be a dad, that you wanted to have in place even at that moment, as you were going to raise this child, 3 things that you considered.
Well, 3 things that I considered. One was that it was important that his mother have a good pregnancy. That was something that I really felt was going to be important because it was an unplanned pregnancy, and she was quite a bit younger than. So I felt that I was going to do everything I could to support her in her pregnancy, to make it a good environment, make sure that she got to all her doctor's appointments, that we brought a baby into the world that had a good chance before he ever came into the world. So that was a really important thing right off the bat. And then it was thinking about, okay, now I'm into something that's a lot bigger. I mean, I had been like the young bachelor for a lot of years and had a lot of fun during those times. And I understood at that point that a lot of the things that I was doing, I wasn't going to be able to do anymore. So right off the bat, I knew that a lot of my behaviors were going to have to change. And that wasn't necessarily an easy thing to do, but I knew somehow that I could do that. Because I'd had a lot of talks with my dad about this type of thing. Many, many years ago when he was alive, he had talked to me about the man you become once you know you have a wife and children, that there's a whole different level that you take yourself to. So I was really fortunate in that way, is that I come from a 2-parent household. And so I was raised with both my parents. So I got a lot of schooling on being a father from my dad. So knowing that I was, I had to grow up. Mm-hmm. That was another thing that I considered. And then it was more about, once the kid is here, creating a good environment for him to get to the planet, me growing up enough to be a good parent. And then once he's here, the steps to give him a better life, to put him in a position to have a good life. I would say those are the 3 things that I considered the most.
Wow. Okay. And again, I'm going to stop here for a moment. When I ask the questions on background, and those of you who are listening, young or old, or planning to have a family, these are things that's important. Again, doesn't matter if it was unplanned. Does matter that you stepped up to the game. You chose to step up to the game. You understood the ramifications, and pretty much because you were 28 and you were more of a mature person. You also understood that you had to give up and sacrifice your part of your life now for the benefit of other. The one thing that I love so far, I've not heard on here, is you're considering what the baby, his incubation period. That is so strong and so important that I don't think enough people give enough consideration to this little embryo in there, and it being happy and eating healthy and having the mom not stressing, and the difference that it makes when it comes into the world. So that's why I wanted to ask you that. So, okay. So now the baby is born. She's 20, you're 28. Where was she from? Was she from Los Angeles also?
Well, no, we met in Vegas. She was from Vegas, okay, and I was from LA, and I had been living in Vegas at that time for about 3 years.
All right. So here's the question. Wherever she's from, wherever she was raised, her parents were from, we know where your parents, where you were raised. Baby is here. It's time to start raising the child together. What were some of the same or differences? And there may be a little difference because of age, but I'm asking a question instead of answering it. Can you think of 2 things that were either the same, that you guys are on the same plane, or you had to come to the meeting of the minds?
Well, we're both Geminis. So I'm 8 years older than her, but her birthday is the 19th and mine is the 18th. Wow. So we had a lot of similarities when it came to, we were very creative people. Mm-hmm. And we were really it was important for us to have a kid who we talked about this a lot when she was pregnant, is that we wanted expression to be a really big part of our kids' existence. and his middle name is Miles, for Miles Davis. And so both of us were very, very musically oriented. I mean, neither one of us play instruments, but music was a huge thing for both of us. So but creativity was something that we built, an expression. We really wanted a kid that felt like they could be close to us, like they could really communicate with us. That was something that we talked about, is that we wanted our kid to feel like, we were his parents, yes, but that we were someone that he could feel would always have his back. We were both really, really big on that. And that really played out a lot as our relationship progressed and things changed. And, we weren't together throughout his life. But we always had that fundamental, I think, bond between us, is that it was important that our kid get along with us and that he feel like a person that could be himself.
Mm-hmm. So talk to me a little bit about co-parenting. What were the dynamics there? Did you talk every day? Did you discuss every and all important matters so that the kid didn't go to your house and come back home and say, Dad said and Mom said? Tell me about co-parenting.
Right. So we lived together for several years before we eventually split, and we ended up with 50-50 custody of my son. So for most of the time, he lived half of the week with me and half of the week with his mother, which I think was really helpful in a lot of ways, because splitting the week allowed him never to really be away from any one of the environments for very long. So that was a helpful thing. Cozy, there were times when she and I were really in alignment on co-parenting, and there were some times when we were not at all in alignment with co-parenting. I think the thing that worked really well for both of us, though, is that we even though we didn't always get along, we got along really badly at times, but we were very, very honest with each other about the fact that we were glad that the other person that we were co-parenting. We complimented each other a lot, even though sometimes it would be right after we, had a wicked battle, right? But inside of both of us, and even to this day, we would always compliment and say to each other, I'm so glad that we had our son together. I'm so glad that I had my kid. We had our kid by one another.
Wow.
And, we believe that at our core, and it just came out. And that was always a really helpful thing. Even in the times when you're in two different environments, our lifestyles were very different. Me being older did matter, because I was at a different place where, as my son was growing up, I was going into my 30s, and she was just still in her early 20s. So she had a lot of things that she still had to experience. And, our lifestyles were very different, the way that we chose to live. But we definitely there was a respect. That really was, again, sometimes people would not necessarily believe it based on our actions, because we be in the same sign, and you got these Geminis, right? You got the nice Gemini and you got the not nice. And there'd be times when both of the not nice Geminis, and that's not pretty.
Right.
but we to this day, I have a tremendous amount of respect for her, and I know she does for me too. And as in our older years, as we've experienced a lot, now we really can look back, and we both are we're very proud of the job we did with our son. We're very proud.
That's important. Okay, let's get to your first question, and it is: were you most prepared? This is a good question for you. Most prepared mentally, emotionally, or financially to have your child?
I think I was most prepared mentally. And the reason why I say mentally is because, like I had mentioned, that I was raised to be a father. I mean, I had a good dad, and we were close, had a close relationship, and he had really schooled me on how to prepare to be a father. And I had a chance to watch him do the job. And he did a really good job, always provided. You know, he wasn't a perfect person any more than I was, but overall, I had a great experience being raised by a father who was very committed to his family. And so I think mentally, I knew that I was all in. You know, there was never any questions. Once like I had mentioned before, once I knew my son was coming, I knew what kind of commitment I was in. And I didn't necessarily know emotionally or financially how I was going to make it happen. I just knew I was going to make it happen.
Because you had a great role model. And we're going to stop there for a moment. Again, planned or unplanned, whether it's both parents, whether it's just a mom, or if it's just a dad, the role model makes a difference. There can be men who become fathers because they had great role models as moms. I don't care what society says. They can take take a few pages out of a book of their mother raising them. And it's not about man or woman, it's about responsibilities. It's teaching the right from wrong. It's giving you the playbook of what it takes, and watching. I think more importantly, as you're saying, of watching the actions as opposed to hearing what other people have to say. Your next question is, explain an unexpected challenge as a dad.
I would say that the unexpected challenge of being a dad is that every day is different. I mean, it's, you know, you have a life, you're responsible for this person. For me, I was a single dad for many years. And so I guess, yeah, it's tiring. Raising kids, especially, again, I didn't raise a kid with a spouse, although I had relationships where I had women who definitely did help me with my son. So I was really grateful for that. So I guess I wasn't always a single parent, but I was a single parent the majority of the time. So I guess the amount of effort that you have to put into raising a kid is very, very tiring, especially when they're young and they can't really do much, you know, up until they're about 7 or 8, where you have to do pretty much everything for them. I mean, you get done with a day and you've done everything else. You've worked and you picked them up from school, and then, you know, you come home, you have to cook the meals, you have to work with them on their homework, you have to spend like time with them. And I mean, you're just exhausted. I mean, I didn't, and I guess that probably would have been the same if I was, you know, always had a spouse or not. But kids, it takes a lot of concentration and a lot of stamina to raise children. That I learned.
Okay. Your next question, explain an unexpected, oh, did I say expected? It says, explain an expected joy.
So the expected joy that I experienced having my son was the bond that a boy and his father have. And I mean, I was there when he took his first steps. I took him to the park, and he'd been scooting. He never crawled, and he just scooted for like 3 or 4 months before he actually walked. And one day I just took him out. I put him in his carriage, and I was pushing him through the neighborhood, and we had a little park in the neighborhood that we used to stop by, and I would put him on the grass. And, you know, so many times he scooted across the grass. And then this one time, it was just me and him. And I was still together with his mother at this time. And then all of a sudden he just gets up and he just started walking across you have those types of, that's price. Like, I'll never forget. I wanted to cry because I'm like, look at my little boy, you know, he's white in me. And then I took him home, and then he, you know, his mother, we enjoyed that. Our little boy was walking. And then you just have so many experiences like that, just watching them become people. I mean, literally from when they can't talk, they can't, you know, and then next thing you know, they're 5, they're 6, they're 10, they're 13. I mean, that's a whole nother.
Your voice just changed. Your voice changed from 5 to 13.
Yeah, 13 is an interesting time anyway.
All right, your next question is, And you may have answered this, but you chose this, so we'll ask it. We'll put it out there. How did you know you were ready to become a parent? And I think you've told us because you're a parent, but it's your question. Did you want to add more to that? How did you know you were ready to become a parent?
Yeah, it's kind of like I mentioned before, Cozy. I was all in, and I was really, there was never any doubt in my mind, even though we hadn't been together for very long, and it was an unplanned pregnancy. But there was never any doubt in my mind or her mind that we weren't going to keep our son, raise our son, and try to do the very best that we could. So I think, yeah, just being all in.
Mhm.
I was all in, and I'm still all in to this day.
Let me ask the question that this is going to be the first time, and you're going to and I can ask you this question only because you like you said you were ready, you had a great role model, you were mature. Um, as you were having this unplanned sex, this unprotected sex, let's get there because that's what it took, and you said that. If at any time did it dawn on you, I could possibly get this woman pregnant? Does that go through your
Well,
and I'm asking this very seriously because I don't think most people take that into consideration when they're having this unprotected sex. There is one result that's pretty much going to happen each and every time, unless there's just something wrong with both of you or one of you. Did that at 28 years old, at any point, at any time, did you say, I know I'm not protecting myself. I know she's not on pills. We could become pregnant. Did it ever cross your mind?
I'm sure it did. And like I said, I think it was pretty, I mean, to be honest, it was pretty irresponsible behavior. The fact that I could have taken precautions myself, or my ex could have taken precautions to do it. So yes, to answer your question, I'm sure it went through my mind, but I mean, the hormones are going, and I
I
mean,
know. I
she
know.
moved in with me very quickly. So we were, it was like we were really
Rabbits.
compatible in our relationship.
You are,
Let's
you are
just say
horny.
that, right?
You
Yeah.
are horny. You are horny. You are horny. And that's okay.
You said
We
that,
all are.
Cozy, and you said it better than I could have said it.
We, as human beings, we are. And again, whoever's listening, this is not a slight at all, but it's a fact. And that is the one part to this puzzle that I personally, oh, I can't get over as my problem. No one else's. When you're having this irresponsible, unprotected sex, folks, I guarantee you somebody's going to end up pregnant each and every time. And if it's not the results you want, there are so many other ways to keep that from happening. If you're not mentally, emotionally, or financially responsible, if you did not have a good rearing or a good role model, if you have no idea what colic is or how to put honey on a gum when they're teething, if you know none of that, don't get me wrong, horny is horny. I am as horny as anyone you'll ever meet. And we know this, don't we?
Yeah, we know you, Cozy. We
We
know you.
do. But I always, and again, I'm not putting myself on any kind of on any penny pedestals. I knew how and not to, and I did not want to. So I do want to say this with all the love and respect for anyone and everyone that's listening. If in fact you are not prepared, you don't want to. I'm going to have parents on here soon of women who just decided, like myself, they didn't want to. And I want the audience to hear them talk about it also. I think it needs to be explored because it's not for everybody. And it's unfortunate to find out when it's too late. So, your last question is, did you attend parent teacher meetings?
I did. I mean, I was very, very involved in my son's education. That was something that was extremely important to me from the beginning. He went to a regular public kindergarten, but then I got him into charter school when he was in the first grade because I wanted to definitely put him in a position to be able to compete in the world that we live in. So a lot of me being older than her, a lot of the educational things kind of fell on my lap. So I was very, very involved in attending all of his parent-teacher conferences. When it was time for him to go to high school, he ended up in I recommended that he go to a magnet school. So he ended up attending magnet school from the 9th grade to the 12th grade. And I mean, I was just trying to give him the best life that I could give him, you know, Cozy. And I know that education isn't the be all to end all, but it definitely is something that's a stepping stone to give you options in life. And
College
so
is
I
not
always
the end
looked
all.
at it like that.
College is not the end all be all, but education is the end all be all. Yes, it is. And it doesn't, even if you don't graduate high school, if you read every day, we've got this internet that you can learn so much from, if you watch talk shows, if you're sit and talk to people, education is the end all be all. It is. And if you're mature enough to understand how that affects your child's future, all the more better. But it doesn't mean because you're 16, 17, or 18, you don't understand the value of education. Education is a be all end all. It will give you and your child so much of a better life, a different life, a better life, whatever word you want to interchange here. Let's get to your fun question. And I hope it's your fun question because I realized I changed the numbers because I sent these questions out early. Let's see if this is your question. If it's not, please stop me. Would you rather be the best player on a horrible team or the worst player on a great team? Is that your question?
That was my question.
Huh. What's your answer?
I am definitely a team player, so I would definitely like to be the worst player on a great team than the greatest player on a
That's
horrible
right.
team. No doubt about that. That was my question.
All right. I do too. I do too. I had this with a gentleman in the gym the other day, one of my buddies, and he went for the best player. I said, of course you did. You selfish shit. That's why he's not married and have kids, and he needs to stay that way. But again, these questions are simply for fun, to just break the ice a little bit with the seriousness of the conversation. Needless to say, you were a wonderful host, as all of my guests have been. Folks, we are here every Wednesday. No, we're not. We're here on Tuesdays at 2:00. Starting on March, we're going to have a 1-hour show, meaning we're going to have a show from 2:00 to 2:30 and from 2:30 to 3:00. If you would like to be a guest on our show, please get in touch with me at cozyupandpayattention@gmail.com. When the show is over, you can watch us on Facebook at PR Connections, or later on, you can go to YouTube and pull us up at Cozy Up and Pay Attention, the Parent Edition. Don't miss us. Please share us. Please subscribe. And again, we would love to have you on. I'm looking for more males to be on here. It's nice getting their opinions as well. We know men are raising great children. We know couples. I'm looking for couples. I want to continue to share, celebrate, and applaud those of you who are doing your job. It is a big deal. As Guy just said so well, it's exhausting. And he said it with love.
Yeah, don't do it if you're not ready to do it. I say that to people all the time. Don't become a parent if you're not ready. Don't do. I only had one. I learned my lesson.
Listen, you were too tired to have a son. And I had a lady on there last week. She had 5, and they're all wonderful, out of her house, responsible, own their own business, raising their own kids. She did it with her husband. It doesn't mean you can have 1 or 8. As we're saying, just be prepared to understand the entire. It's more than a ball of wax to have a child. And I love to end my my books. Don't move. Don't move. Cozy Up, Pay Attention. Also, self-published author on Amazon. Cozyisms, The Art of Paying Attention. Quips, witticism, intelligence, and beautiful art that you can appreciate. Please go support me on Amazon. Folks, I believe when we know better, we do better. And with that said and done, Mr. Dawson, I love you. I appreciate you. Thank you for bringing me on your platform and giving the world at large something to think about and hopefully laugh about a little bit. Uh, I will call you in a few minutes. Folks, continue to enjoy the rest of your Tuesday, and I'll see you again, God allowing, next Tuesday. Bye.